Diolch am ymuno ni yng Nghanadledd Cenedlaethol Seren 2018. Ewch yn bellach. Thank you for joining us in the Seren National Conference 2018, Above and Beyond. Dyma sesiwn. This is session Cyfathrebu'ch Sgiliau, Communicating Your Skillset.
And croeso, welcome to Cyfathrebu'ch Sgiliau, Communication Your Skillset. What does that mean? Well, what is the skill set? We need to think of what your skill set is in the first instance before we can communicate it well. And I know fi'n gwybod na rai siaradwyr Cymraeg, so I'll do that a little bit. It's not going to be a completely bilingual presentation. Adnabod eich sgiliau. Beth yw'ch sgiliau chi? A sut i cyfathrebu nhw? As you can see, I'm bilingual. Didn't speak English until I was about 4, I think. In the local primary school where I was, there were nobody speaking English. It was all Welsh speakers, and it soon changed within a year or two. On beth bynnag, I won't dwell onto that. So this session is about identifying your skills and then how best to promote it. And you'll find yourself using communication skills, not just during your dreaded UCAS form, if you're going to complete those, or an interview, if you get interview, or for job interviews later down the line. Your communication skill set is going to be a vital part of your life, and is and has been already. The way you communicate with teachers in school, with your colleagues, with your friends, vital ingredient. And the chief executive of TED Talks actually said, communication literacy isn't a special skill for the selected few. It's for everybody. And it's a key ability that you need to work on in the 21st century. I'm in the communications business. I'll tell you a bit about what I've done. What we'll also do today, we'll identify what makes good communication methods. Who are those good communicators? And we'll do it in a workshop style environment. We'll also identify, help you to think, what are my own strengths? We're all different, which is great. How can I best communicate myself? To equip you and to reflect on today and think, oh, I need to do a bit more about that. So we'll get a process involved, how to create a good presentation, how to create a good communication tool, what the content is, and how to make sure that it's your skill set. I think I should have put that in bold, actually. Not anybody's skill set, your skill. We're all different. Communicating your skill set, not anybody else's. And just another little statistic to remember, 60% of the jobs that you will end up doing have not yet been created. You think, oh, that's rubbish. It's not. You'll get a set of transferable skills from today that will lead you above and beyond Dyna Destun. I do know that's the title of the day. We want to take you in this session above and beyond to make you feel equipped and confident to do well in whatever those jobs may be. I've got 2 children. They're 28 and 26. I can honestly tell you the 2 jobs that they're doing were not created when they were in school. Maybe talk about more about that later on. But it's not about me, it's about you. But what I want to get, is there anything, before we go any further, that you want to get from today? I've hinted on some of the things. Anything that's a burning issue? I don't want you to leave this room at 1:15 thinking, well, that wasn't any good, is it? That's not what I came for. I met some students yesterday on the way out, and I said, how did it go? Oh, 4 out of the 5 sessions, or however many were, was good. The other one was not what I expected at all. She was going to something with a subject matter, not what was in the content. I don't want you to feel that. Otherwise, I'm wasting your time and my own time. Is there anything, a burning issue that you want us to consider during the course of the day? Don't be shy. Put your hand up if there is. I'm scanning the room. Don't worry. Don't expect you to say anything. But what I would like to encourage you, at the end of today, during lunchtime, I'm around all day. If you really want to come and talk to me or ask me a question, please feel free to do so. Because in an environment like this, I remember my son in the 6th form telling me, don't pick on people, ma'am. So I won't pick on anybody. But I want you to feel an important part of this workshop, okay? But I told you what we're going to hopefully do. So, little bit about me to set me in context with you. Why is she talking about this? What am I about? Who am I? Well, a few slides on me and then see where we go from there. That's me, as a little girl. Now some of you are from the Cardigan area. I've come from a small village called Capel Iwan, near Newcastle Emlyn. And that was me at the age of 6 or 8. So, competed a lot in the Eisteddfods, some of the little trophies that I won. I was mischievous. You can see the mischievous look on my face. But I did quite well in school, as long as I could do what I liked outside of the classroom. I loved music and sport, and that took me away from the boredom sometimes of classroom. And I really got to know myself a bit as I grew up. When you're communicating your skill set, you have to work out what's relevant and what's not. So there's no point in me talking about my interest in sport and music if there's nobody in the room talking about that or interested in that. What's that about? So it's really interesting, and the key thing for you, when you're communicating your skill set, find out who you're communicating to. It's a two-way process, as I said, no monologue. So you need to know who's in the room. You might be going for an university interview. Find out who the panel are. Find out about the course in detail. Don't think, oh, I'll do that later. No point. You're wasting valuable opportunity. Make sure it's a two-way process and you know what you want to say. You know what they want. You know what they offer. And then they can tell you whether there's that match. Because that's what it's about. And we're all different, and you might be the key person that they're looking for. And unless you've done the research on them, you won't know. Two-way process, and I need to know where you're from. So I know if I go into siarad Cymraeg, I know there are people here who will understand me. If I just carried on in Welsh and there was nobody, if I hadn't done that, I'd be unaware really who's in the room. I need to do that process. So that's me, and I identified later in life what I really liked doing. So what did I do in school? And did I follow an academic pathway? Yes, I did. I got bored very, very easily doing my academic work, but as long as I did my music and sport, and hockey is what I loved, and performing with music, part of the choir and whatever, different performances, drama and things I used to do, kept me on the straight and narrow whilst working hard. Hard work never killed anybody. I really have worked hard. I went on and took every opportunity that I had. Lovely to hear about your volunteering. People think, oh, you have to do the back, don't you think, oh, volunteer, that's a pain, that back. But you know what, you gain from that. And even in my work now, I do voluntary stuff. I get so much out of it. It's what you put in, and it's lovely to hear about young people doing that kind of thing. And that'll make you stand out to the crowd. Because I really want to know what you do and why. You've started a dialogue that I want to pursue. And that's what you need to do when you're communicating. Get them interested in you. I'm interested to know how you have helped each other in school to settle down in Rhaeadr. And similarly, you've done the same. Because you've created an interest in the way we talk together. You never know when that comment that you give at interview or during an open day will stick in people's minds. And I can tell you that has happened, and I'll tell you a little bit of my story. So I took opportunities, and I wanted to do lots of different things. I am quite vocal, as you can gather. My husband's here today. You've heard him earlier on today. He's less loud than I am, but he's very thought-provoking, and he's quite good at what he does. But anyway, we're a bit different, but I always put my hand up, want to do lots of things, and that's how I could concentrate on my studies in whatever subject I chose. So I went on to university. When I was young, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I had some options. Went to university and studied Welsh literature. I went to Aberystwyth and studied Welsh literature. And at the same time, carried on doing my sport and music, because that's what I'm about. And in school, the teachers in school must have thought, oh, her sister's the quiet, conscientious one. Glenda's a bit loud at times and doing lots of different things. Is she studious enough? Is she good at what she can do? Well, I was the one, surprisingly for them, I'm sure, who went on to study postgrad. And then I did a PhD in medieval Welsh. And you think, okay. But I had the opportunity. I put my hand up again. I did the application form. I remember having a brilliant tutor in my undergraduate. She said, I think you should go. You should help me. Maybe you'll get a grant to do research. I thought, oh, me? I didn't think of myself as an academic, but I did my best. Actually, I ended up doing a PhD in medieval Welsh, but also doing the other things. So I spent some of that time in Cambridge. It was a valuable opportunity. I felt like a fish out of water. I know what it's like going to another place when you're used to being in another school. I'd spent 3 years at Aberystwyth. Then in Cambridge, lost my confidence, but brilliant experience. had to reaffirm my own ability and confidence, and I had a great time there. Came to try for my first job. What am I going to do? I had to ask myself, what can I do? What am I good at? Obviously, I'd done the research. I'd done research in medieval Welsh. Then who am I? I really had to ask myself back in 1984, what am I? What am I about? So I had to communicate my skill set to people who didn't know me. What is my skill set and how do I communicate it? What I want you, any ideas what my first job was? And I don't care what you say, I won't be offended. What do you think? Where do you think my degree and my doctorate in medieval Welsh and my interests took me? Any ideas? Go on, be brave. There's nothing like a wrong answer. I just want to hear your thoughts. Where do you think I went for my first job? Hands up. Come on, somebody go for it. Teaching. Keep that, store that one. Did I go to become a teacher, right? What else would I have gone for? Any ideas?
Maybe in the library.
Library, teaching. I can understand exactly where you're coming from. Anything else? Any idea? Come on. Because I'll build on those. Teaching or the library. What else do you think my skill set took me? My interests? Any idea? You're being shy. I went from being an academic to becoming a soap opera producer. I got the BBC and you think, what? And when I talk to PhD students, they can't quite believe that. You never know where your skill set might take you. And I remember really being interested in the media. I always wanted to become a teacher though. So I'm glad you said that. With the library, I spend most of the time at the National Library. And I sit on some of the boards that to do with libraries now, and that's voluntary. So that's really interesting that you said that. But I've got a skill set. I like doing lots of different things. Really wanted to become a teacher. I wanted to become a Welsh and PE teacher. Never did my teacher training. Tried for a job. Planning for that application. Because I knew I didn't want to stay in academia. I thought, my interest, how am I going to persuade the BBC? How am I going to communicate to them that I've got a skill set that is good for broadcasting? So I had to sit down carefully, plan the application form, redraft it, newid e drwy'r amser, addasu. And when you apply, when you're doing a personal statement, give yourself plenty of time. Don't leave it till last minute. Do it, think about it. Who am I? Look at yourself. Research yourself. Who am I? Who am I? Am I the right person to go into broadcasting? So, detailed planning, detailed preparation, really trying to identify what am I good at? How do I need to persuade them that I'm interested in the media? And the interview went really, really well. Didn't get the job. But you know what? They sent me a lovely note. Nobody was appointed. 3 weeks later, note under my door at university, can you please go down to Cardiff to see this producer? What's this about? They offered me a job. So when you're communicating your skill set with people, don't think, oh, if it doesn't work out the first time, that's it, gone. Keep working, keep contacts going, but something might occur. And that's what's happened to my 2 children. One of them did work experience in his second year at university with an organisation. The following year, he gets a note saying, we liked what you did with us. We'd like to put you on the fast track scheme to apply for a job. That happened. My daughter was interested. She actually started her career as a journalist in the BBC. Somebody who she knew from university and from her interests outside of work, be it voluntary or profession, said there's a job coming up soon in the House of Commons. She's now there, bless her, working on Brexit. But your opportunities come your way, and that's why I'm talking about it. Your skills and your interests and your personalities will take you places that you don't expect. But don't shy away from being you. So that's me. Let's think, therefore, what does a presentation need? What does good communicating your skill set, what does that communication need to be? I'm going to use your words to go with this slide. You need a structure. Yeah, it's here. We've got structure. You need good structure. Structured, it says here. And you need to be knowledgeable. You need to know what you're going to put into that communication method, be it application form or interview, you need to have a structure. Don't overcomplicate it. Beginning, middle and end is fine, but not easy when you've got a lot to say. But you need to think, what was within this structure? When I was producing Pobl.com, Monday to Friday episodes, every day of the year, every episode needed a structure. And I said, what's going in here? But you need to self the why. Don't ever forget the why. And that's why we put why at the beginning of your first activity. You need structure, you need beginning, middle and end, so that people who are listening to you or reading your application can follow it. I've interviewed people and looked at application forms and they're all over the place. Be clear, be structured. Yes, an eye-catching title. Get that beginning really going. The first, when you write, I remember when I was in school, the key sentence in your first paragraph. You need to, that immediate approach to somebody reading or listening to you. Get those first impressions in early. Make it all relevant, as you've got. Yes, needs to be informative. Balanced information. Think of the structure. How balanced is it? Is it true to what I want to say? How varied is it? And if you're doing a presentation, am I involving people? I could have easily in this session today just talked to you about different things, but I don't know. It's about you developing your skill set, not me just telling you, working on it together. And that's how I've developed. I work on my own, but I hate being on my own. I much prefer working with other people who contribute ideas to my structure. Engaging and interacting. Yes, engage them from the very, very beginning. Well structured. You be confident in when you say, and if you've got a good structure, I know what I was going to do in this workshop today, worked out the structure, thought it through in my prepare, plan. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. I'm sure you've come across that before. So think about the structure. Think about what's going where. Oh, I'm going to start on this, I'm going to finish with that. What's happened in the middle? Okay, I'll do a bit of that. I'll be interactive. What else we got here? Pictures, yes. If you're doing a presentation, you might want to add pictures. I tend to talk a lot, and therefore if there was text on the slides, you think, oh, we've heard that. So I tend to do that. I put visuals on a PowerPoint and talk about the text and give them evidence. Yes, evidence is a great one. Show the whole picture. I haven't shown you the whole picture there. It's just a building block. But know at the beginning, in order to get that structure going, know where you're going, know what you're aiming for. You know what you want to say. Any presentation or communication of you needs to be your story. And that's why I use the analogy of Pobl.com. We have our stories to tell, and this is your story. Good title, steady pace when you're doing it. All these very good presentation links. Visual and audio content, yes. What kind of language are you going to use? Persuasive language. Get them interested in what you're saying. Don't overcomplicate structure or language or anything. Make it real to you. And when you're doing something about you, communicating your skill set, that was the title of the session. Not anybody's session, as I said at the beginning, not anybody's skill set, but your own skill. What is it about you? Know your subject matter. You've got knowledgeable here. Know your subject matter, because as one of you told me, because in one of the groups they got funny, and I said, oh, I can't be funny. But they also had know your subject matter, and I was asked, do you know that? I hope I do. Hope I know my stuff. But if not, work on it. Don't put anything in the presentation that you really don't think you know about it. It'll catch you out. You don't need to. Concentrate on your strengths. Age-appropriate humour, yes. I have to be very, very aware of language and whatever I use with different audiences. I work with business owners, I work with primary school children, I work with students like yourself. And I always prepare. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. Couldn't get it out. But I was last night, although I'd done the sessions yesterday, again, last night I thought, what worked well, and look back on it. What can I do today? So you need to know your subject. Be rigorous. Ask yourself, the 5 W's. Who, what, why, where, when. What is my content? Make sure it's good content. Do a SWOT analysis. I'm sure lots of you will be familiar with that. Doing the back or doing business studies. What is the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats within your preparation? Know what you can contribute and what your strengths are. Analyse yourself Again, preparation before you come in to deliver. And the reason I enjoy delivering workshops, I do prepare quite heavily. And then, the most important thing of all, in Pobl y Cwm, we'd structure stories, scripts, daily programmes, but it wasn't the structure that appealed and got the audience watching and clicking, it was the characters, the key characters. I remember devising a new character for Pobl y Cwm years ago. He's going to be, I wanted to see him or her on screen, because that's what would make people switch on. Why is that relevant to you today? You want people to like you and to get to grasp with you as key characters. So don't forget about you and your unique selling point. We've all got those. And that's why I did that introduction at the beginning. I wanted you to think, I really like this. And very often, I didn't say what you're best at. I could have, but you'd have been even shyer because I can't say. But when you're applying and presenting yourself well, you're really selling yourself. So your unique selling point, what makes you you? And yes, you've got here anecdotes and stories. Give your own evidence. Nobody else has got it. Don't let anybody else take it away from you. And I want to go then to the first exercise you do. What do you want to portray? So why are these presenters good? And what can you take from them? This must look very funny on camera because I'm going up and down to the front of the lens. Okay, the why. Once you've done your preparation, what makes you deliver that well? And I'm going to use your words. You can all Google what makes a good presentation on the web. I want to use your words. You confident. How can you be confident? By having done your preparation. By looking at yourself. By structuring well. It'll give you confidence. I can be confident running a workshop with you today, knowing that, okay, I know why I'm doing every little bit of the exercise and hopefully giving you what you need. Open-minded, yes, you need it. I had to be open-minded. Just imagine when you were doing that work and you were not giving anything, and I need to change the workshop. I even with experience presenting, if something changed, and you have to be open-minded about the consequences and respond to the audience. For instance, if one of you had said something at the beginning, I want to make sure we do this today, and I hadn't planned, what was the point of me asking the question if I wasn't prepared to respond to it? Be open-minded. Be knowledgeable. You'll have done your knowledge. College of Knowledge, used to call Barry College in the Vale of Glamorgan. Be knowledgeable. Be passionate. I'm glad you've got engaging and passionate. Because if you are, the people think, he or she's really interested. I really want to get to know them more. And talking about something you're passionate about is not difficult because you love it. And when you were talking about your subjects, and those of you who are really into art subjects, science subjects, your sport, your musical achievements, be proud of it and be happy that I'm really good at that. As I said, I wasn't very good at physics, but I scraped my O-level, as they were called at the time. But I knew what I was good at. And going back to those BBC days, that interview, I knew what I could tell them I could do. So I'm looking at your words again. Be inquisitive, yes. If you don't ask the question, you don't know whether you're relating to somebody. Look comfortable. Again, how do you look comfortable and enjoy yourself in a presentation? It's because you've done your homework. Even the most confident people, if they haven't done their homework, if I'd have said, I've done plenty of presentations, I don't need to plan for today. No, I had to do my homework. I thought, okay, these sixth form students, they're high ability students, I need to relate to them. So do your homework. And good cooperative skills, yes. And you've shown that in your workshop. Confident. Respect your own culture. Be proud of what you are. We were talking about Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield and the way they react together. Good chemistry, yeah. You need to create rapport and chemistry with other people. Good awareness of current political issues, somebody like Russell Howard, being able to make fun of the current political situation and how hairy is that. Body language, yeah. If I was like this when you came in today, looking miserable and, thinking, oh God, another hour, I want my lunch, you wouldn't want to listen. But hopefully your body language at interview, whatever, says a lot about you. And I realised when you came in today, these young people seem to be listening, and I think it's going to go all right, because there's nothing worse than the other side seeing you uncomfortable. Enjoy presenting. And it's not easy. Some people are born to it, others aren't as experienced, but the more you do with your sport and your music and your work, the more you do is preparation, the more you practice, the better you get at it. Don't mumble. My mum, sadly she's passed away now, she'd always tell me if I was doing a radio interview or a television interview, oh, you mumbled a bit this time. So I think, okay, I keep that in my mind. Don't mumble, know what you want to say, know what you're talking about, don't venture into unknown territory. Yeah, get the point across clearly. Body language, interesting. Anecdotes an example. I've given you a few examples of me and work, but you give your own, as I said initially. Stage presence, yeah. Use the space, engage with the audience, two-way communication, clear explanations. Don't get confused with busy language and complicated language, but keep that enthusiasm and have a varied tone and a friendly tone. I mean, as an academic, I remember having to present a tutorial to some undergraduates at Cambridge, and they didn't look enthusiastic at all. I thought, I can only talk about my subject matter as I know it and try to be as friendly and as interesting as possible. And it seemed to work. I'm looking at other words now. Relatable. Persuasive language, direct and simplistic. Yeah, simplistic doesn't mean simple. Simplistic respects your communication methods. And be positive, even in negative situation. I really like that. Entertaining. If you can entertain, do it. But I like the word respectful here and smiling. I remember doing a presentation with business people once, and they asked a group of sixth form students, what should we wear when we come and talk to you? And the response from the sixth former was, can you just wear a smile? So when you've got smiley there, it reminded me of that little anecdote. Be approachable. When you're being selected, maybe for an orchestra, a football team, a rugby team, whatever, you think of, are they coachable? So when you're in a situation or presenting yourself, make sure you want to create rapport and make yourself stand out. Some of the companies that I work with, and I use my own communication methods, and I've done sessions like this, for instance, with the Welsh Rugby Union. You think, what? Not any training on the field, but the Welsh Rugby Union asked me to do presentation skills and communicating their skill set with the players who were then in the under-20s, and some of them now have got their caps and were playing last Saturday in the match. And they really responded. They did a similar exercise to what you had to do. Why does that matter? Communicating on the field, communicating with the coach, communicating with the press and the media. And I do lots of these other things as part of my work. Estin. You think, what on earth has she got to do with Estin? Any school had an inspection recently? Did Cardigan have a... No. Yeah? Fairly recently? No. Any school had an inspection? Did you? Is it public? The report? Did it go right? I'm an Estin inspector. I'm a lay inspector. I'm no teacher. I wanted to be a teacher, as I said to you. But and what do I use my communication skill set? Is to analyse and help look under the microscope or in the mirror about what the school has to offer itself. Then a role that I have to do then is communicate that knowledge to the people. But I won't dwell on each of them. But what I want to tell you is I want you to never forget about structure, preparation, being yourself, and being proud of what you want to say, and you'll do well. What I want to tell you, there was a young student, she was in her final year at university, a very, very clever art and design student. She knew she had to do a presentation on her work. Now, her work was amazing. She was dyslexic and very, very underconfident. And her dad asked me to do sessions with her. And she said, I can't present. I don't like presenting. So we went through, similar to what we've done with you, but over a period of a few weeks. And I said, you're really good. What really makes you, what are you good at? What are you passionate about? What are you enthusiastic about? And she started talking about her designs. And once she was showing, as you said, interact, once she was showing examples of her designs, once she was being prepared to give me stories about what she'd created, she came alive. But in her own way, and a very silent, calm way, but a lovely, lovely presenter. And the way we worked hard on her, it was her presentation, not mine. It had to be according to her skills and talents. She worked really, really hard at it, worked her socks off, and gained in confidence. We practice with a friend or a colleague, whatever. And I remember her telling me, I've got my final presentation tomorrow. And I was so nervous for her. And I remember then when it came to results day, she said, I got a first class honours in your degree. Yeah. What did you get for your presentation module? And she said, I got a first for that. But she'd worked so hard. Not a natural presenter, but she worked on it. She knew exactly what she wanted to say. She'd worked out the why. Okay? And that is so important. But that's what you will do. So some top tips are your tips. Prepare. Know what you're going to say. Know what you're good at. And make sure you've got examples of that. When you're presenting, if it's a verbal presentation, pace it well. The words that you've got here. Structure it well. Keep giving your experiences. And the other thing when you're doing a presentation, it's not an easy one sometimes, is knowing when not to talk. As you can imagine, I talk quite a lot. And my husband always tells me, okay, shut up now. You've said enough. You've repeated yourself. I'm not going to repeat anymore today. We're coming towards the end of the session. But what I've got to tell you, to sum it up, practice makes perfect. But then you learn, don't you, by practicing. And by practicing and learning, you will constantly improve. I will reflect on today's session myself. I say, oh, what was that like? Did I communicate my skills? Did I help them identify their skills? Hopefully we've touched on that. We could do so much more. In an ideal world, what I would love to do, and don't worry, we're not going to do it, is get a little session with each of you on you presenting and communicating your skills with me and standing up today saying, I'm so-and-so and I'm really good at this. You can do that at home. And then with your best mate after today. Constantly improve. Sell yourself well. Take opportunities. You know, I said when I was a little girl, went through different doors, some slam back in your face, it doesn't work. But keep going, keep going. You never know where you're going to go. This this day is called Above and Beyond. Who knows where you're going to go? I didn't think I'd end up doing what I'm doing now, but I just followed my own convictions and worked on my strengths. And that's what you need to do when you plan and communicate your skill set, nobody else's. And do that in a trusting environment. I worked for Big Ideas Wales. I trained business people to become presenters and role models. And there's this acronym, you might have come across it in school, called ACRO. The O is you need to be organised. You need to be organised in your presentation and communicating your skill set. R is about relationships. You need to form a relationship, whoever's reading or listening or watching you. C is about being creative. And you can show your creativity or show your ability to problem solve. That's being creative. The most important one of all, I say, is the A, and that's attitude. Now, what you've done today, and this is the biggest group I've had, but honestly, you've been great. Your relationship building, you've worked together well. You didn't know each other in the groups, most of you. You've been organised. We've got the evidence. Here's the evidence to prove it. You've been organised. You've worked well in relationships. You've been creative by thinking and solving problems, asking questions. And your attitude has been spot on. And sometimes I get asked to do some campaigns, and I remember people from different visits to schools, colleges, universities, whatever. I think, oh, who's shown the right attitude? Every one of you in this room today has shown me a positive attitude to yourselves and to me. That's worth its weight in gold. And if you do that in your presentation, in your communication, your skills, that won't leave you far behind, I tell you.